The interesting thing that Yen Press is doing with this, and this ties into marketing, they're serializing it, which is exactly how they market series in Japan. It's not that you see that book sitting out on the shelf all by itself, it's that you've been reading it in Morning, or in Shonen Jump, or in Hanato Yume for several months before you actually get that book. Whether Yen Press is going to be successful and kind of launch a DramaCon that way, or sorry, Night School that way, kind of remains to be seen. I think it's off to a good start so far. But I really admire them for taking that effort and really trying to get people into the series that way. I had something else. And the other thing that serialization, whether in the US or Japan, provides, and I think we're going to see more of this if Yen Press continues, a lot of the first chapters of a manga series are like twice the length of your average chapter. Your average chapter is like 25, 30 pages. Chapter 1 is 50 pages. And so you really get a chance for the author to kind of set out their thesis, set out what the story's about, get it out there, and get people hooked in that first 50 pages. And as a company, Tokyo kind of made like an attempt at going in this direction by what we call the pilot program, where we're commissioning like a chapter or two at a time, throw them out there, see what people think, see how this artist actually performs, and then after that, then you make a commitment for a full series, or to kind of continue it. That happened at a very bad time in company history, so that didn't really go anywhere. But in terms of... It happened when the company was cut in half. Yes. We went from like 6 months of that to 50% less staff. So that, yeah. Anyway, in terms of really evaluating content in a different way, I think the Japanese kind of have the right idea with that. And I'd like to see more companies going in that direction and making that sort of initial, try out a bunch of new artists in a very small context, and then kind of winnow out the ones that we think we can really work with and we think are going to be really successful.
I hate to ask a question and take over Bert's position for a second, but I had a question which was that how does everybody on the panel feel about online as a viable way to reduce this kind of financial risk?
I think online is a great way to reduce this financial risk, just like I think online is a great way to reduce financial risk across the board for creative endeavors. I think that by having online available to us, it actually does empower the individual that wants to create good content and put it out there. The idea is that before, we were sort of beholden to a company deciding to take this and do something. Of course, that company has a lot of other mitigating factors. It has a bottom line it has to reach. It has a marketing engine. It has ancillary products it's interested in right off the bat. I mean, there's so much more that can dilute what a creative vision is. Now, it also means that someone's not paid up front for something, but that's already happening. So how's that a problem, right? So I think online, not only for comics, but for film, for TV. I know 2 people now who've created web series, just kind of, they're really passionate about it, and now they're being looked at by production companies because the production companies, this is great. They can have work and they don't have to actually have that initial investment for buying these pilots. You know, that cost millions and millions of dollars and most likely won't get made, right? So I think online across the board is going to be a great way, a great ground to mine for really good talent. And so what happens is that the person that succeeds is not the big publisher who's so big they can kind of bring things in, but the individual who goes out there, finds something going, this is so good, I want to put a lot of effort into bringing this to a wider audience.
Yeah, and if you, go ahead. No, I was just going to say there's a great success story already, which is what Fred Gallagher did with Manga Tokyo. And actually, we were hoping we could get Fred, because I think that is one of the great success stories, not only of creating something in that style, but launching it online and then getting it published and really building it exactly as Louis just described.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this works obviously best for someone from a creative perspective. And what working online does is get your work out there. It gives you that chance to kind of go through your own apprenticeship process and really refine your own skills without, frankly, being a drain on company resources. That sounds really hard, but we have picked up webcomics authors. I mean, Svetlana, again, using her as my favorite example today, was doing 2 different webcomics for Girl-O-Matic before Tokyo Pop basically found her, and we found her through her webcomics. We were like, there's someone here with talent. She's been doing a page a week. That's a good start. I would say for comics artists, the tough thing with going from web to professional level publication is time commitment. Doing even 3 pages a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that can be really tough. And then when you're suddenly being expected to do 10 pages a week, that's a huge difference. And so that's something to really factor in. It's like, okay, I've got a weekly webcomic, I'm ready to go pro. Really think about the time commitment involved, because that's going to be a different level.
Totally.
That said, it's a fantastic way to get your start. So please, please.
One really, I mean, if her favorite example is Svetlana, mine's Felipe Smith. So Felipe actually, when MEQ was still kind of in the doldrums, right, and that was going on, he actually went down to this Nike store where they were releasing a new shoe, and there was a huge line, of course, like that started at 9 p.m. the night before outside. Everybody wants
it's
to.
actually right around the corner from my apartment.
Yeah,
It's really funny.
wants to actually buy the shoe, be the first person to buy the shoe, which I think is ridiculous, but that's all right. And after actually reading Felipe's mini comic on this, I actually had more of a sympathy for the people that actually want to buy these shoes. So what he did is he did this like 12-page story that he just drew right then and there that night as he was talking to people, and he put them into the manga, and he, basically was a story about the commitment these people have to get the shoe, and how it's parallel to his commitment to get his book out. Well, that got picked up by so many people. Just because he put it out there on the web. There was a Nike itself actually had a link to it because it's free marketing for them, and it was this really earnest, really cool endeavor. So yeah, online has so many. So not only just putting your own work up there, but also putting you up there. Making a presence for yourself online.
Experimenting, playing around. I would add one more sort of using the net as art training caveat. Most manga-style webcomics tend to be one page at a time. You read manga as spreads, and so again, Svetlana. One of the things that we figured out, like halfway through DramaCon Volume 1, is that she was still writing page, 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 and there wasn't a sense of flow from one page to the next. And so we started breaking it out into spreads a bit more. It's a really different way of thinking about the story, whether you have one section and then you have a joke at the bottom of the page. Next page, joke at the bottom of the page. That pacing works great for online. Doesn't necessarily work so great for when you're actually reading 200 pages in sequence. So, yeah. So design things specifically for the web, recognize the benefits and limitations of that medium. It has a ton to offer, but yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't, because it's a different medium,
Yeah.
you could do different things,
Yes.
which is exciting, but you don't have to pretend like this is actually
A 200-page
a
graphic
200-page graphic novel, right? You can actually play with the shape because you're not limited by the shape. You're not limited by this rectangle. You're not limited by. You can actually play with minor animation techniques. You know what I mean? If for some reason at the end of this page you hit a button and one of the characters kind of shifts to the left as it's moving to the next panel, that's the kind of stuff that could be very subtle, and you can work that. Obviously, it hasn't been available long enough for people to actually fine-tune all the things they could possibly master in this medium. But there are lots of things you can.
Do you believe there are